Hey, it's Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualise, My Asexual Life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, so subscribe and hit that bell icon right now. So happy Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month. We're now on day 15 of Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month, although if you live in the UK, we've gone over into the 16th day. But I'm a little bit late. I was doing an interview earlier about asexuality, so really happy about that on Amplify Your Message show. So that was great on Blue Talks. And now I'm going to be talking to you about asexual advice to a younger version of themselves to give advice to other asexuals. So let's dive into Asexual Perspectives book, which, like the Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month, celebrates our diversity across the asexual spectrum and our differences within it. Let's go. So, D story. If you were to look back at your life, what advice would you have given a younger version of yourself in regard to asexuality? Don't have any sex unless you're confident you want it. Now, that might sound very simple, but it's not always easy because in life we often get pressurized into doing things we don't want to do, especially in the name of love. So I think it's totally true. Do not have sex unless you're confident you want it. I was pressurized into sex at age 16 because my boyfriend, who was older than me at the time, said, "Oh, my friends are doing it." And back then, I lacked self-love, I lacked boundaries, and I wanted to be with him, and I felt I had to do that in order for him to stay with me, which obviously is the wrong thing to do now, which I know. And so I did have that with him, but doing that through pressure is horrible. And 6 months later, he dumped me anyway. So just because someone wants sex with you and maybe your first true love, or you think it's your first true love, doesn't mean to say they're going to stay with you even if you do have sex with them. Years later, he did actually apologize for the way he treated me. He's the only guy ever in my past that treated me badly and did in fact say sorry years later. And if I see him in the street now, I do say hi, and I did get back on speaking terms with him. And so, yeah, but otherwise, don't hear from him or talk to him. He's not my friend on Facebook. He did request me a long time ago, and I'm like, no, because I don't want to go on that. He's got a wonderful girlfriend now that's really suitable for him. And I think that did help me to heal, actually, the fact he came back years later. At the time, it was a bit difficult when it first happened, but I thought, oh, he must genuinely be sorry because he hasn't been able to live with the guilt for all those years without wanting to say sorry to me, because his best friend at the time, after he came back and said sorry, said, "Oh, I thought he might still be into you or love you after all this, or have feelings for you after all this time." Oh, I think he said, actually, I think he said, "Oh, I didn't think he'd gotten over you all these years." That's what he said, something like that. But anyway, I was glad that guy came back into my life and did say sorry, because it was years later and he seemed to genuinely be sorry. It was the only time. But his girlfriend now is really suitable for him, and I wouldn't get back with him. He's not the right person for me. So, because he didn't treat me well at the time, obviously, when that happened. If you were to look back at a younger version of you, this is Hannah Lay, in regards to asexuality, what advice would you have given your younger self? I don't have a whole lot of advice, but I would have steered myself to Asexuality Archives Glossary a couple of years sooner. I always had known I wasn't interested. It just took me a while to find a label that I was comfortable with. Yes, we've been talking a little bit in comments lately on this channel about labels. Some people like labels and some people don't. So I think it's up to you to decide whether you like to label yourself or you don't. I personally love having a label. It's really good for me. I love being able to define who I am and define it in the way I want. So my label, if you like, which is weird because really I just call it my identity, I don't think heterosexuals go around going, "Hi, I label myself as heterosexual." So my identity is heteroromantic asexual. That's the short version. but the full version is heteromantic, hyperromantic, grey asexual, younger cougar who doesn't like sex, just kissing. And I'm not a textbook grey A because I don't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever. I just have the grey areas of kissing and dancing, which is sometimes sexual in behaviour without the sexual attraction. So I think for some people, when they realise their identity and they do call it a label and they put a label on who they are, for some that can be such a relief. For some, I know it can be trapping and they can feel like, oh, I don't want to pinpoint what I am. But for others, it's a relief. It's like, finally, I've got a name to who I actually am, to my identity, to my sexual orientation. And that can feel such a relief, especially if you've been carrying the burden of something you're not for so many years, such as heterosexual. I thought I was heterosexual for years, and that can be a real trouble if you're not actually the way that you thought you were. In other words, I thought I was heterosexual because that's the title I've been given for years. That is what I was led to believe. That's what I was conditioned to believe. That's the lie society told me. And so I believed that for a number of years until 2013, the year before I found out I was asexual. I knew there was something strange about me because I had this very aesthetically hot Bangladesh guy that I was in a relationship with. He did cheat on me within 3 weeks, so that was the end of that, and that wasn't good. But he wanted sex with me, and he was so hot looking, he was so gorgeous, aesthetic, he was really my type, and I loved kissing him. But anything more than that, I was forcing myself to do. And I couldn't force myself to have sex. By the way, you should never force yourself to do anything sexual. You shouldn't be doing anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. You shouldn't be forcing anything to please someone. I'll just say that now. I lacked self-love back then, really. Well, I started self-loving in 2012, but I clearly didn't love myself enough. And I didn't set boundaries. And I I was wanting to please him sexually because I couldn't do the full sex act, right? And so that was just awful. And I do think that you've got to be very conscious of yourself and what you do. And the reason I found out I'm asexual is because I thought something strange about that. Like, why didn't I want to have sex with him when I thought he was so hot and I was kissing him? And then in 2014, I realized I'm really different to other people because I don't have the need, urge, or want for sex. I love romance and kissing, but I don't want sex. And that's when I told a counsellor in 2014 that I love romance and kissing, but I don't want sex. And I'm worried because I thought I was going to be on my own forever. And she said, I'm worried about you because you're going to have sex in order to keep a good guy. And I was absolutely horrified. Like, how can a guy be any good for me if he's wanting me to do that? Something I don't want to do, all in the name of love. It's horrible. So I think it's very important that you understand yourself, you understand your asexuality. And if finding out your true identity makes you feel so happy and you want to put an identity label on it, that's absolutely fine. For some people, it can be so relieving. It was so relieving when I went home after that conversation with the counsellor and Googled, I love kissing, not sex. And it came up with asexuality.org, the biggest online forum for asexuals. And I thought, oh my God, these are people just like me. And yeah, it was amazing. And so I like that a lot. So, Joel's story. What advice would you have given a younger version of yourself in regards to asexuality? I would have told myself about it and not worried so much about what was wrong with me. Yes, I think that's important because as a society, people keep saying what's wrong, like they keep saying about asexuality being a disease, which it's not. It's not a disorder. It's not a malfunction. It's not being celibate. It's not abstaining. It's not repressing or suppressing yourself, because asexuality is the fact we don't, by and large, have an innate need, desire, and want for partner sexual intercourse. That's what asexuality is like. And so if someone's pointing out loads of things that are wrong with you, by whose judgment are you going by? No one has the right to tell you about things that are wrong with you. That's just their perception and opinion. And it doesn't hold any weight if you don't give it weight. Yes, I know some people can really hurt our feelings and say things that are not nice. I get that. And I'm so sorry if you've had that happen to you. But I want you to know there's nothing wrong with you being asexual. There's nothing wrong with being different, not fitting in, not wanting sex, not needing a person to pleasure you sexually, not needing romance if you're someone who doesn't experience romantic attraction. I personally do. So it's absolutely okay to not need, want, or desire sex, not need any of these things. And I do think that's a really good point, that, you know, not to worry about what's wrong with you and just think, well, I was going to say worry, but think about what's wrong with society that is, you know, what is wrong with society that is basically saying there's something wrong with you just for being different. There isn't. Just because you don't fit into a neat little heterosexual box because you're not heterosexual is fine, right? And just because you don't want the same things as other people doesn't mean to say there's something wrong with you. So what advice would you have given to a younger version of yourself in regard to asexuality? Confront is maybe the wrong word, but face it sooner. Realize it is a part of who you are, and don't wait so long to find out about it or to embrace it. I think that's a very good thing. I mean, I did have someone say to me years before 2014. 2014 is when I found out I'm asexual. I did have someone years before that who was a blogger who was talking educationally about sex suggest that I'm asexual. And at that time, I didn't know anything about asexuality. I didn't look it up. And when they said about me being asexual, I was like cringing at the word sexual and asexual. And so I literally didn't even Google it. And I just said, no, I just don't like sex. And I love kissing, basically. And I don't associate sex with love. And that was the end of that. But I realised years later he was correct. And when I went in his inbox on Facebook, because we were friends at the time, and said he was correct, then he, not long after that, decided to unfriend me. So clearly he wasn't comfortable with asexuals. So I think that's a very important point. Right, Katie's story. If you could have what advice would you have given to a younger version of yourself in regards to asexuality? I would have told myself that it existed. It would have saved me from a lot of teen angst and awkward relationship moments. Yeah, I think it's interesting to think about your past, and if you knew about asexuality before you embarked on the life that you didn't know you were asexual, would you have been better off if you knew that you're asexual? Or would it have made relationships harder, friendships harder, school, college harder, if you're a person who found out after that you're asexual? So I always think it's interesting to look back at your life and think, if you'd have changed it, if you'd have found out you're asexual sooner, would it cause you more heartache and pain, or would it actually have been better for you? In some ways, for me, I think it would have caused me more heartache and pain, but then it also might have helped me to understand that I don't need sex to feel loved, and maybe I wouldn't have got into sexual situations without love. But then I could have been feeling even more left out, because I would have known that I didn't want sex, but I would have wanted romance and kissing. And I know most people put those two together. And so I think it's very interesting to look back at your life and think, You know, what if things had been different? Would it have been better or worse? And in what ways would it have been better and what ways would it have been worse? So, Thylacine story. If you were to look back at your life, what advice would you have given a younger version of yourself in regard to asexuality? Don't listen to other people. Let them make their mistakes. Live your life. Let them live theirs. If they got in trouble, it can't be helped. You can't save other people. They make their own lives. Yeah, I have to agree with that. We can't fix other people, unfortunately. And a lot of us in life are helpers. We want to help someone. We see the potential in someone. We see they can be better people. We see that they can improve their life so much, especially if we're a people pleaser or helper. But at the end of the day, if someone doesn't want to change, doesn't want to feel better about themselves, then, you know, oh, someone's pinging me. It's probably my best friend. Oh, bless them. I don't usually have my phone on. I didn't realise I got it switched on. Hello to them in the middle of a live stream. Yeah, it's my best friend. I'm glad I've got a best friend. I actually met my best friend. I'm going off on a tangent here. I met my best friend through an asexual dating site, but they no longer identify as asexual, but they're amazing. So friendship, kisses, love and hugs to them. They're really great. I don't usually blow them friendship kisses. I usually do friendship, love and hugs to them. But I thought, why not? So yeah. So I do understand that you know, you've got to let other people live their life. And sometimes when we advance on our own life journey, we feel we need to tell other people how to advance on theirs to make their life better because we've made our life better. But sometimes these people aren't in the same headspace as us and are not able to actually change their life or want to change their life. They don't think there's anything wrong. And it's hard because in some ways we shouldn't be fixing anyone and certainly not fixing someone's sexuality. But I think this person here, when they said don't listen to other people, let them make their mistakes, live your life, live them, let them live theirs. If they get in trouble, it can't be helped. You can't save other people. They make their own lives. I think in this situation, you know, where people are getting themselves into trouble by making mistakes, I think, you know, you can't fix them, you can't change them. You know, I even went to a webinar recently with a person who deals with past trauma and to deal with emotional wounds. But even she spent 10 years trying to fix her marriage with her husband. But you can't fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed. If the person doesn't want to change and they don't see they've got a problem, why spend 10 years trying to convince them otherwise? Do you know what I mean? I mean, I understand she wanted to save her marriage and she thought she was doing the right thing, but it just seems 10 years is a long time to waste your life trying to fix someone else when they don't want to be fixed because they like the life and the person they are. You know what I mean? And if a person's not if a person's not prepared to put the work in to change their life and become a better person in some ways, then you can't do anything to help them. Right. So, if you were to look back at your life, this is Henry's story, what advice would you have given to a younger version of yourself in regard to asexuality? I don't think I have any advice to give me. Past me handled it pretty well. I didn't worry about it too much when I was questioning. I didn't ever think I was broken, and so far I haven't told anyone I shouldn't have. So yeah, I think that's nice when you've got someone who's reassuring about themselves, who is confident in how they handled a situation when they were younger and how they handled their asexuality. And I think that's really nice and refreshing and good. It's good to be confident and have confidence in yourself. It's not always easy, but it's good. So, Andy, if you were to look back at your life, what advice would you have given to a younger version of yourself in regard to asexuality? That it's fine not to be interested. Even more than that, to not say all this dumb stuff to try to fit in. It's all right not to be interested. If you keep saying it to yourself, you're going to make yourself believe it to some extent. It just makes things difficult later on. So if you were to look back at your life, what advice would you have given to a younger version of yourself in regards to asexuality? That it's fine not to be interested. I'm going over this again, which I think is a really good point. It is okay to not be interested in sex. It's okay to not be interested in sexual touching or sexual things. And even more than that, to not say all this dumb shit to try to fit in. And yeah, I think some people do try to say things just to fit in. I didn't really do that, and I probably got very ostracized for it as a kid because I was different. I am born to be different, and I knew that, and so I couldn't lie just to fit in. That's the thing with me. I can't lie just to fit in, whereas lots of other people can. But by not lying, I didn't fit in, which meant I was left out a lot and bullied. So I think people get bullied and try and fit in, and then other people don't fit in, and that's why they're bullied. It's all right not to be interested. I think that's an important point as well. It's okay to not be interested. So they put it's fine not to be interested, and it's all right not to be interested. So they've reiterated their point. And it is a good point, it's okay if you're not interested, wanting, liking, or needing sex. You don't have to be just because the majority population is. This your body, it's your life, and nobody should be defining a relationship other than the people that are in it. This is what I put in my Diary Confessions book. Only the people in a relationship should be defining that relationship. This is one of the life lessons in there. Only the people in it, right? You can get this book on Amazon, it's bestseller. So that's really important. And if you keep saying to yourself, you're going to make yourself believe it to some extent, it just makes things difficult later on. Yeah, so I think this works both ways. You can say something to yourself to a certain extent, and you can make a negative thing something that you then think about more, or you can keep saying something to yourself that's positive, and you can make that more predominant in your life. So whatever we say to ourselves over and over again is what we think about and we become what we think we are, because it's repetition. This is how the mind is controlled and conditioned by media, by different people, because they put in your head doubt about yourself so that they're able to manipulate you or control you by making you think you're wrong about yourself or your life. I'm not saying no one is wrong about themselves or their life, but it is a very controlling thing when people drum into you what you are. This is why many people are conditioned to believe they're heterosexual, because that's what you get repeatedly told throughout your life. For a lot of people, not all people. And if you've been forever told, you're heterosexual, you identify as heterosexual, you were born into a heterosexual family and relations, everyone's heterosexual. And so you grow up thinking you are heterosexual. But just because someone says you are, and because you've been conditioned to think that way, doesn't mean to say you actually are. So I think when you're looking at your life later and you're looking back on your life, you did the best you could do at the time. And if you thought you were heterosexual but later realized you're asexual, just know that it's not your fault. I think some people might blame themselves or feel, gosh, why didn't I know that sooner about me? And how could I have been so stupid? And all this type of thing might go through the mind. But I want you to know that it's okay. If you were conditioned to believe something about yourself, it's not your fault. You didn't really know any different. And we're constantly being conditioned all the time, by everything around us, the environment, people in our lives, family, friends, acquaintances. It's all conditioning. We just have to choose what we want to be conditioned by and what we don't. Right? So, Cassie's story. If you were to look back at your life, what advice would you have given to a younger version of yourself in regards to asexuality? Don't doubt yourself in favor of others. This is really important. You just don't work in the same way, and that's okay. I think this is really amazing advice, because we do doubt ourselves if we don't fit in, or we're not like other people, we're not like mainstream. We think, oh my gosh, we can't say the real us because we'll be condemned for it, we'll be shouted at or looked down, or people will be angry with us, and they just won't be good with us. It doesn't mean there's anything fundamentally wrong with them or you. It just means the differences. So just accept the differences and move on. I think that's important, because two people can be incompatible and be nice people at the same time. And so it doesn't necessarily mean to say anything's wrong with them or you, just like it doesn't mean to say anyone's wrong for wanting, liking, and needing sex. And no one's wrong for not wanting and not liking and not needing sex. I think you just have to hash yourself why you want sex or why you don't want sex. Like, what is the driving force behind that? And if you don't want sex because you don't experience any sexual attraction, need, desire, want for sex, then that's perfectly fine. If you're a person who's not asexual and has a strong desire for sex and enjoys it, is consensual, and you're gentle and kind to that person, and you're not doing anything wrong to hurt them, yeah, then it's fine. So it's fine to be who you are, and that's the message that Cassie is saying in this story of theirs. So I think that's really important. So we're now going to go to someone else's story. So we're going to go to South American Anonymous' story. If you were to look back at your life, what advice would you have given to a younger version of yourself in regards to asexuality? Seriously, I would explain to myself everything I know about orientations and genders right now, and I would emphasize that we are not broken and there's nothing wrong with being who we are, and what other people say doesn't matter, and we should be having more courage to face what's up ahead. And I think that's so important, because there is nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with being different. And I have an embrace your quirky philosophy, which is all about being your true authentic self, no matter what anyone else says, thinks, or does. So it's very important to embrace who you are, even in the face of adversity, and to know that you're not wrong for being who you are. You're the right person for you, because you are you, and you are uniquely you, and that is a gift. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this live stream. If you're watching it on replay, hello to you. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Go and grab a copy of Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories on Amazon. Grab me a copy of my other best-selling book, Diary Confessions of a Hyperromantic 78 Life Lessons, Hyperromantic Asexual, I should say, 78 Life Lessons to Ace Your Life on Amazon. Go and get these two bestsellers, and I'll see you soon. Next be a live stream. Lots of love. I am in London this week, so I won't be able to do these live streams like you're currently seeing me do them, but I will be doing some videos. So lots of love. Take care. See you soon. Bye. Subscribe and hit the bell icon.